Thomas. Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the agenda review for this, the 7th day of May 2025. Could I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Dollison.
Here.
Commissioner Mercer. Here. Commissioner Dantzler.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yates.
Here.
And Mayor Birdsong.
Here. All right, we have some presentations, and all of these will be presented on Monday, except for the strategic plan. Do you want to do that at the end like we've done before, T, or you want to do it now?
Yes, sir. At the end, I just wanted to check real quick to make sure we had one added late today. So I'm just doing a quick refresh on my device here to see if it's gotten there. I believe there will be one more added. Latanya, has it been added yet? The police officer week? So we will add in one more that pertains to, I think it's National Police Week. As you know, we were just at the Police Memorial in DC, and so their ceremonies take place, I believe, next Thursday as well. And this is just a proclamation that speaks to the issue of fallen officers in the Police Memorial.
Okay.
So that'll be added, but no issue there. And yes, we will do the strategic plan presentation at the conclusion of tonight's meeting.
All right, we have no developments of notes in the minutes. And then don't have no second readings. Consent agenda. One item you want to?
Just
That's
one
just a
item.
reappointment, so.
And just as an awareness for this, that board has served since 1939, the library board. It's produced some city commissioners. Commissioner Dantzler came from there. Commissioner Dollison presently serves as our liaison to the library board. Jonathan Owen has served on that for a number of years, and his term expired in January. So this is a reappointment to him to that at the recommendation of the library board.
All right, thanks, sir. Resolution R2519.
R2519 is seeking approval for a FDOT grant to update the airport master plan. So our current master plan was initiated in 2014 and completed in 2016. Obviously, we've had a lot of changes in and around the airport since that time. So this current effort will allow the airport to reassess priorities and ensure that future development aligns with current and projected aviation needs, the economic opportunities at the airport, as well as community goals. It will focus on identifying opportunities to maximize the land leases that we have. We're actually engaged in a land lease study, looking for Troy with one of our consultants right now. Explore options to expand the terminal apron to accommodate more aircraft as we continue to see more and more operations there. And then review possibilities for development along the adjacent highway corridor. This is a $592,000 effort. The FAA is providing 90% of the funding for this. That totals about almost $533,000. And then the remaining 10% would be split between FDOT and the city at $29,600 each. So this grant is for the FDOT's portion of it.
All right. R2521.
We had a lot of talk last week while in DC about FAA involvement in various things at the airport. And we brought up the remote air traffic control tower project. So as you may recall, you authorized a resolution 2329 for a grant with DOT for the design and construction of that tower. That grant is set to expire presently on June 30th of this year. So as that project is continuing to evolve and go through the process, this is an extension request that moves the expiration date to December 31st of 2026. There's no change in any of the costs or anything. It's just a timeline extension.
Okay, R2522.
So happy to bring this item back for the City Commission's consideration. This is the renaming of Coon Lake Road, which presently serves as an unimproved right-of-way that runs from Eloise Loop Road, Thompson Nursery Road at the intersection of Lake Ruby Drive West. It runs south and then back to the west to connect into County Road 653. Staff is proposing to rename that street Lake Ruby Drive West, which would represent an extension of the existing road as it crosses northward, north of Thompson Nursery Road or Eloise Loop Road. There's no development on this road, although you do have a 7-Eleven that's under construction now, but it affronts Eloise Loop Road. Our staff reached out to the E911 folks to get their take on this. They indicated that they had no objections to the renaming. And then if it is approved by the commission, the E911 Center addressing office will notify all the emergency response agencies and other government agencies and any affected property owners. That office will also coordinate the posting of appropriate roadway signs with the city's street and drainage division if approved. So this is officially renaming that. It just becomes a continuation of an existing road. Also just want to point out the design for this road, it will be improved to is part of the work going on at 7-Eleven, but that road will only go southward to the Traditions development that is a future development to occur. Where it cuts back to the west, or as you're looking at your screen where it cuts back to the left, that is intended to be a recreational improved trail system that makes the connection there. The road will not extend all the way down to 653.
Mr. Mayor, why would we not name this like Stavros Parkway?
Well,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that. But why would we name it like Lake Ruby Drive South since it's going south? Why would we call it west? It just seems counterintuitive to me. Since the road's going south, why would we not?
Just because it's a continuation of the same road.
But the other road's Lake Ruby Drive, not Lake Ruby Drive West, is it?
It is Lake Ruby Drive West. The other road is.
In eyes of
Because it's on the
911,
west
if they call
side.
it south, it would make more sense. They would know. I'm just asking. I'm not trying to.
We were just trying to find a way to get to a quick resolution to the name. That's the, to serve it as a continuation of an existing road creates a little less confusion, I think, for folks that may be traveling that.
Okay, no heartburn. I'm just trying to figure out what the logic is.
I do like the name Stavros Boulevard, but if we could pick a maybe more pronounced roadway for that, I would.
First Street.
First Street sounds pretty darn good.
All right. R2523.
Sorry, can we go back real quick?
Oh, okay.
So one question, and I think we've talked about this before, but is there still no way, even if we didn't pave it, but we just maybe graded it or some way to help and queue the school traffic down that road as opposed to queuing the traffic down County Road 653?
So the school's plan is to make improvements south of the school, as I understand it, to improve queuing for that campus. The problem with doing anything along that east-west extension of the roadway is that is a non-signalized intersection. And in all reality, the way that it exists today, without major redesign of an intersection there, would likely create more confusion and problems for the queuing of traffic there. It becomes a bypass road and you're just dumping traffic elsewhere.
I just wanted to, if you posted a deputy there during the school hours or something like that, but it just, I knew that the school board was considering or changing that on the south side of it, but it just seems like we've been talking about it for a few years and it still hasn't helped and the traffic issue is still there. So I just wasn't sure if there was any potential of a possibility, but it doesn't sound like there is.
Not at this point, Mayor Pro Tem, with that road. I think we need to allow the school to address the queuing within their campus. And certainly, I think when they get into the future development of the property further south of that, I think that's slated to become a middle school at one point. getting their traffic off of the road is the key
Mhm.
into their property.
It was that middle parcel between the two, I think that was the holdup.
That's my
before.
understanding.
Yeah.
And we can try and get some more intel on that from Harry Fix and the folks at the school board.
Yeah, just update would be good.
Eric, if you would chase that for us, please.
Anyone else? All right. R2523.
So R2523 is a request from Four Star Real Estate Group. This is pertaining to the Harmony on Lake Eloise Phase 4, which is shown bounded in a red line on your screen. This is a 57.25 acre subdivision that contains 322 building lots and 12 common lots. They're requesting that the city accept the improvements and the dedications that are in favor of the city. Within this project, all the water, sewer, and reuse lines and the related infrastructure will be owned and maintained by the city, but all the roads, street lighting, and stormwater infrastructure will be owned and maintained by the Harmony on Lake Eloise CDD. The commission approved a resolution R2501 for the platting of the Harmony on Lake Eloise Phase 4 subdivision back in January of this year, but certain improvements were not complete, and the developer submitted a performance bond in the amount of $1.983 million to guarantee that completion. Staff has inspected the property and found all the incomplete improvements are now complete, and the water, wastewater, and reuse utilities can now be accepted by the city.
Have we
Any
heard?
questions? Go ahead.
Have we heard anything on? Obviously, this is all done and platted. I'm not questioning that, but just curious of feedback from planning. If there's been any conversation with the builder or any of these builders where all this is approved, but are they talking about scaling back at all yet, or slowing down?
Just based on market, no, nobody's indicated yet. We have conversations often with developers that come into the office or over the phone talking about projects. We've not seen a slowdown in site plan submittals. We've not seen a slowdown in permitting. And right now, nobody's really indicated that
You kind of wonder when the rubber meets the road. I saw a report the other day where the Lakeland Winter Haven area was the 5th largest in the state when it comes to available inventory. And so you wonder when these builders are going to start to maybe scale back a bit and slow down.
And just as a note, I had a chance to take the mayor out there recently, but if you've not driven the new road that is just to the right of that red line, that's the new Westlake Eloise Road. Eric, is it still called Westlake Eloise
Yes, sir.
Drive? That road has been completed and reconnected back in at the north corner, and it is extremely well done.
Yes,
Looks
it is.
really good, and it functions very, very efficiently and effectively. I think they did a great job with that road.
I concur. Any other questions?
I just have one. If this is going north, and the south part of that, is that additional lots and platting to be done?
So to the south of the red area, those are lots that were already platted, and a lot of that has already been constructed. People are living out there. This area that's within the Phase 4 is some of the more recent work they've done out there.
Anyone else? All right, R2524.
So 2524 is another road renaming, and this is through Roger Lee Vanacker. He's an agent with Four Star, requesting to rename Pomelo Lane to Pomelo Drive. I think this is just for consistency within their subdivision. These are roads that are completely contained within the subdivision. Pomelo Lane was platted as part of the Phase 2 subdivision for Harmony on Lake Eloise. There's no building lots that access Pomelo Lane, nor is there existing future residential properties that would be impacted by this request. They also engaged with the E911 addressing office, who would notify all the affected emergency response agencies and other governmental agencies. That office will also coordinate the posting of the roadway signs with the city streets and drainage division, but the cost of those signs will be at the expense of the CDD. So we'll participate with them in that process, but they'll incur the cost for that. And as I've looked at this one, certainly no financial impact to us. And Eric, I would just ask for you to weigh in as well. I think it's more so just to create consistency between the two. When they did one plat, they said we wanted it to be named this, and then when they did the second plat, it had a different name, so they just want to make sure that those are consistent.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right.
R2525.
Yes, R2525.
Katrina, if you could bring up the image on this one for me. So this is the shops at CC LLC, which I assume the CC is for Country Club. They're requesting final plat approval for the shops at Country Club. This is a 34.9 acre subdivision. It is a commercial property. It contains 7 lots. One of the tracks will be dedicated to the city as a 20-foot rights-of-way dedication along the subdivision's eastern edge. This was developed according to the requirements in a PUD ordinance 23-29. Their water service is already accounted for in our allocations that we've talked about recently, and that water will be from the Winter Haven water system. The wastewater will be handled through a private sewer system on property, and then that wastewater will be treated ultimately at Wastewater Treatment Plant 3. There's capacity within our systems to serve this, as that has been accounted for when they receive their site plan approval. This platting will not directly impact current revenues from this property. However, additional revenues will be realized upon the development of the vacant lots. And staff's going to recommend approval of this. This is under construction today, so this picture is probably, I'm going to say, maybe 6 months old. If you happen to go by there now, you can see vertical construction happening on the site, which, Eric, I assume is for the public shopping center itself, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. Any questions? We have no ordinances, first reading, so then we're down to new business. We have one item.
Katrina, is there an image with this one? Yes, thank you. So this is the building due north of us. This is the old fire station, and also where our finance department and account services are housed. In August of 2024, the city had issued RFQ 2438 to seek submittals from design build firms that would be interested in a project for the redevelopment of this fire station, with the objective of creating it as a new space for the Winter Haven Building Division administrative offices. We have just run out of space across the street, and the amount of work, as Commissioner Yates just mentioned, there's a whole lot going on there. So that was the motivation for trying to do something with this space. Whitehead Construction was selected for this project after a competitive process, and that recommendation was posted on December 10th of 2024. Staff's been meeting with Whitehead to discuss the project details and has negotiated a guaranteed maximum price for the design and permitting phase of the project that totals $355,930. When we do design build projects, we bring to you an initial GMP, which is for the design and permitting, and then at a later date, we'll present to you an addendum to that GMP that will factor in the actual construction costs. We don't know construction cost until you go through design, obviously. We have $7 million set aside in the construction fund for capital improvements associated with our building division. That is part of the in compliance with state statutes that limit what we can use building division funds for from the revenues they collect from permits and inspections. And so, recognizing some time ago that we would need to expand their facilities, we had appropriated those dollars accordingly. So this is a request for the commission to approve the design phase proposal from Whitehead not to exceed $355,930. We think that we know for a fact that what our staff has identified as their needs and what Whitehead has given some initial concepts to, we're going to end up with a phenomenal facility there that will truly meet the needs of our operations in serving the customers. My intent is also, we have where the flag post is in this picture, where you see the two flags, that wing of the building presently houses our finance department. Our CFO and her team are currently working towards a relocation effort of their offices across the street to the second floor of Normail Hall, and some vacant space that we have there that will allow all of our finance to be housed over there. When they vacate that space, we'll also relocate the engineering division into their old offices. So you'll have engineering and building division again in very close proximity, so we create that one-stop shop efficiency for customers.
All right,
Mayor?
go ahead.
The only thing that gives me pause for concern on this is we're getting further and further away from having one big new city hall. Because we're getting ready to put $7 million into this place or more. We're going to run out of space. Or the intention, of course, all along was to ultimately come up with a plan to have one big brand new complex. But what I fear is that we're going to put a bunch of money in here, and it's going to be harder and harder to get down that road. So, and I'm not saying I'm against this per se, but I'm just saying to us as commissioners, it's going to be harder and harder for us to bulldoze a $7 million building or sell it some $7 million renovation if we decide that sooner or later we're going to want to put a 5-4 3-story building, whatever it may look like, City Hall, state-of-the-art kind of stuff, if we start renovating these kind of things. So that's what gives me pause for concern on this. Not necessarily that I'm against it, but at some point we're going to probably want a new facility, I would think, but not, we don't. I'm just throwing it out there for y'all to consider because that's what's in play here in my mind.
Commissioner Dancer, if I could respond to that. Let me make one correction, something I said. We have $7 million that has been appropriated for within the building division fund. I don't think that this building, the improvements will be anywhere near that. We are also considering opportunities to create a satellite office for the building division. So a secondary office that would be someplace in Southeast Winter Haven. We're exploring some opportunities for that presently. When we get to the point of Advent Health building their hospital and some more of the big commercial that we anticipate happening out in that neck of the woods, having the efficiencies of being located closer to that with a satellite office provides, I think, some great opportunities for us to better serve customers. In exiting this space that we're in across the street, that is one of the things that has to be done in looking to the future of where would you put a new city hall. And as you may recall from 2021, that was the plan that Strawn Trout had done for us, was a campus in this area. I think that still is something that needs to happen. If you want to put my name on that instead of the boulevard, I'd be okay with it. Maybe a restroom or something, who's to say. But I think that when we get to that point, there's value that will remain in this site to look for future occupants to go in there, whether that's, something with the college or with other medical facilities or something that may want to go into that area. So I think we retain value with the improvements that we're doing because it will be office professional in its design. In terms of moving forward with the City Hall project, my professional opinion is we still have a number of needs that we need to meet within the community that are frontline service points for our constituents. Some of as we've talked about, park space in Southeast Winter Haven, moving forward with the completion of our fire stations, anticipating future public safety needs that we may have within the community as we continue to grow. We can get by for now for the next several years with certainly what we have laid out for our administrative services, but long-term, we do need to look for that. I also think with the uncertainty of what lies ahead in some of the the challenges with property taxes and actions of the state legislature. I'm trying to be somewhat fiscally conservative and not getting too far out over our skis without having a sound understanding of what our revenues and our sources of revenues will be long-term. But definitely, I support what you're saying. And if we could get a brand new city hall at some point, that's certainly something we need to
Well,
work
at the
towards.
end of the day, we have to look long-term up here, and in 44 years, we're going to lose Normayo Hall. Granted, none of us will be here, but at the end of the day, Normayo
I'll
Hall.
still be here.
Huh?
I'll be alive.
You'll probably still
I'll
be,
alive.
and Nat will probably still be, up here. Dispensing,
still be here.
I'll at least be
I
above
hope
ground.
so. He'll be dispensing wisdom every chance he gets. But if we're really thinking long-term, and even if we end up with Normayo Hall long-term in 44 years, that'll be a 120-year-old building. So we probably will, ultimately, that place, what I thought ultimately, T, and you can help me remember, but I thought we were going to tear down this and make this the parking for Normayo, for the new city hall, and for this building. Because I thought this would make a nice art facility, but that's neither
When-
here nor
yeah,
there.
when
That
we
was
did
what
it-
I thought we were going to do there, is make this a parking for all three buildings.
It was the concept at that point in 21 was to have it as a parking garage with a wrap, kind of a
Right.
Texas donut is what it's referred to.
Yep,
That
yep.
you have the parking facility in the middle and then commercial and residential multifamily around the exterior of that. And that may be, an option that somebody wants to consider if they were to acquire that at that point. Certainly since that time, we've had a number of multifamily projects come into downtown and more that are slated that weren't necessarily part of the equation in 21. Rain Dance, the Breeze, the Carl, some other developments that we anticipate happening in there. So, yeah, I think that those plans still make a lot of sense. And certainly what we're doing with the 3rd Street Complete Street Corridor project plays into that. We're taking bites at the apple. But I don't think that the concept that we had considered for a city hall across the street from this building really has lost any of its value. I think that that's probably still the best option for us at the end of the day.
Okay. Well, I thought we were going to put $7 million in this. It's easier if we don't put that much, because I ultimately see this building getting torn down one day before they tear down Normayo and before we tear down this building, because this building's got the whole Gene Leedy thing. And at Normayo, I can't imagine us tearing that down because it costs so much, but maybe we will. I don't know. But sooner or later, we as a city are going to have a newer, bigger, brighter city hall than what we got. It's just a matter of time. So I don't know when that is or where we put it. But that's all I'm throwing out there for you guys to think about. That's all. So
I just worry about the looming infrastructure costs that are on the horizon. Those are mind-boggling numbers.
but it's never going to come down. The prices are going to get worse. I can tell you. I mean, it's amazing what things cost now. So anyway, that's something for another commission to decide. But if we're really being stewards of the people's money, we need to think along those terms and try to think out 40 or 50 years, because that's what's coming.
Mr. Mayor, if we could add one more thing to this discussion, and I'll defer to Mr. Murphy, City Attorney, on that regarding the actual contract that goes with that GMP. So John, if you want to speak to that, please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, T. Michael. Yes, we have a draft contract that will actually be part of the agenda materials that will memorialize the normal form that we use for design builder contracts. We've developed with staff a template, and Mr. Labby and I and Mr. Cox have been working on getting that finalized, and that'll be uploaded hopefully tomorrow,
Okay.
but certainly no later than Friday.
Just
All right.
one more attachment for this.
One more
thing.
attachment, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, one question. How old is this building?
Eric, do you know?
I don't. I'm sorry, T. I don't know.
It was built as a garage, basically, for fire trucks.
Google answer that.
And it's not a Gene Leedy building. I can tell you that. We have confirmed that with one of our architectural
Good at that.
historians.
This building. Okay, how old is this?
It was
The building that we're in, if you're speaking of this building here, 1960s, early 60s.
Currently, this building is being utilized in what way?
The portion where you see the picnic tables and everything to the right of that is vacant, and that has been vacant since the construction of Fire Station 1 at Avenue G and US 17. That occurred 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And we used this as a lot of storage space. When the police department relocated out of the southern portion where the flagpole is, that occurred in 2004, 2005 timeframe. That was all renovated to house account services, IT, and the finance department. So that's what's all housed over there now. Yep.
So the renovation is going to be the entire building or just?
It'll be the bays where the parking of the fire trucks took place, and everything to the north of that.
So the
is what it'll
south
be.
portion is.
South portion will remain pretty much the same. We'll do some minor improvements in there once finance clears out. They've get a little wild in there, so we have to paint walls and probably clean some carpets. You know how accountants and finance people can be.
The parking is adequate?
Yes, sir. There's certainly at the time when this building is utilized, during the daytime, there's less demand on the parking to the north of it, which is also shared with Trailhead Park. So there's a great opportunity for the shared parking there. And then this also serves as overflow parking and primary parking to some extent for Normale Hall. When the 3rd Street Complete Street project occurs, as you look out at 3rd Street in front of City Hall here, you notice that that's an extremely wide street, which is why the Florida Citrus Festival was held there for so many years. That will be redesigned in a fashion that provides more on-street parking in a parallel or an angled format. And narrow that road up quite a bit. So we will gain a significant amount of parking spaces.
This building is called what?
This building is called the City Hall Annex.
We'll build and we'll maintain that same.
Yes, sir, because it will house multiple offices within it.
Anybody else?
The part that the finance, not so much finance, but account services still has some of the jail cells in it.
Actually, where finance is, you can go back and see some of the old jail cells. They don't look like jail cells anymore, but they are pretty durable storage rooms.
All right. Okay, now we will have our strategic review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Commissioners. So we are kind of on that second round again of updates on our strategic plan pillars. So this evening, we're going to talk about community safety, which again is all about feeling secure, well prepared, and cared for. This covers so many different facets of what we do on a daily basis. We're going to have some presentations this evening from some familiar faces and maybe some that you haven't seen before. We're going to talk a little bit about our fire services with Chief Newbrand, our water operations testing insights. I want to give you a little further intel on when we had our issue with the telemetry in our SCADA system. We have Damon Irvis with us from the water department who's going to speak to that. Introduce you to a brand new product that is getting ready to roll out called a SUFA board, which is a new communication tool that will help us in emergency situations as well. And then a brief update on hurricane preparedness. Obviously, we are in the month of May and June 1st is right around the corner. So with that, Drew, are you leading us off this evening, sir?
I am.
Take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. I'm excited to kind of be up here and lead off the community safety pillar. As City Manager stated, I'm going to go over the fire zone changes that we have with the implementation of Fire Station 4. Give you a little update on where Fire Station 5 in the design is. Talk about some new technology that we're using for electric vehicle fires on the fire side. And then I'm going to pass it on over to some of our teammates that are going to talk about some water operations testing, some communications enhancements, and then we're going to wrap up with hurricane preparedness with Charlie Bird over here. So Fire Station 4, we're getting ready for the grand opening, May 21st. It's coming up in 2 weeks, actually, from today, be held in the morning. As we kind of go into that, outside of just the building and how excited we are for it, one of the things I want to share with you is the change into our zone and our response matrix that's going to happen internally for us, and how that really impacts the citizens and the residents of the community that that fire station is going to be housed in. So on the left side of your screen, you see a map of the way our stations in the zones are today. The two things I want you to kind of look at is in the blue, which is Winter Haven Fire Station 1 downtown, and then what's currently called Winter Haven Fire Station 4, which is off of Havendale Boulevard over on with the trailer on the shared property of the church at this time. As we transition, those are two of our busiest stations and units. Downtown station has a really large coverage area, as well as you can see how far that green extends for current Fire Station 4. On the right-hand side of the screen is what happens on May 21st when this station opens. Fire Station 4 will be relocated and moved over to Fairfax. That coverage zone dramatically decreases. Went from roughly around 10 square miles down to about 5.5 square miles of coverage zone for that unit to take part on. The downtown station also reduced by almost half of its coverage size. And what that really translates to and means to the citizens is over there in that green coverage area, they're going to serve about 3,800 calls for service just out of that station. And that reduces the response time by over 2 minutes to almost every single one of those calls. 2 minutes might not sound like a lot right now, but when you're in an emergency, if you're having a heart attack, if your house is on fire, 2 minutes can literally mean the difference between life and death. Every 30 seconds, a fire doubles in size. That's 4 times the size of the fire by the time they just get there in there. Same with any medical emergency, right? Every 30 seconds to a minute reduction in response and treatment that we have increases survivability by over 50%. Tremendous impact to that community as we go through there. So we're really excited to not only be in a brand new facility, but also increase our service level that we're going to be able to provide to that area with such a high call volume as such. As we move forward and look at Fire Station 5.
Hey, Drew, can I ask
Yes,
you,
sir.
can I ask you to back up for just 1 second?
Yes, sir.
2 things, just one point to make, and then a question that if you can elaborate on. So also within what's on the right-hand screen, stations 1, 4, and 5, these are very densely populated areas, both residentially and commercially. These are where you have major roadways coming through the city. So vehicle traffic and accidents, again, that adds to that call volume. Drew, the activation of the dispatch system.
Yes, sir.
When Station 4 goes live on May 21st, can you explain that a little bit for the commission?
Yeah, so in the background, as we're ramping up and getting close to the opening of the station, there's a big matrix that goes on in the dispatch world in the realm, in the computer system. So we've been working that we have laid out to ensure that this new coverage zone, the minute that station goes into service, it's getting the correct unit at the correct time on the initial dispatch every time. So it's a lot of back leg work that we make sure and run through the different zones and response areas to make sure that nobody's getting skipped over for our coverage and service as we go through there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Fire Station 5, we're sitting at 100% design. Currently today, we're just waiting on the GMP to come back from Whitehead. This station is going to be located at the Lake Hartridge Nature Park area. It sits on the southwest side of that property. It's going to be a little smaller footprint for us as what we had been building in the past, but this is a footprint that's really going to serve that community well in the area of our firefighters. So one of the things that we're really working on along with this project is we're working with Carter K currently on roadway and watershed improvements that will also need to potentially take place on Shore Road and 20th Street that leads into that facility down there. Along with this project, there's going to be a couple other elements that goes on. We're going to be adding about 8 boat trailer parking spaces that help service that boat area on there, as well as they're going to make some improvements to some of the walking paths moving around the park that goes up next to the new fire station along there. So we're really excited to see this come to light. We're hoping in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to come forward with you guys on a GMP for this project as it sets. But this is really going to take our firefighters currently housed on a shared property in a trailer and put them into a fortified structure that's going to be 30, 50, 60 years in the making for long-term growth for them as well. And the last thing I want to talk about is some new technology that we're using. Really excited about this one. So we're going to be the first agency inside Polk County that has this type of technology. And this technology is really important. So as we're all aware, the growing trend with EVs and electric vehicles on the roadways. Currently, in 2024, they have 1.3 million sales of electric vehicles alone. So EVs are now holding about 18% of the market share for all vehicles on roadways. You guys see them a lot in the community. Some of us might already have them ourselves and operate on them on a daily basis. But one of the things in our side in community safety that we have to look out is some of the potential challenges and hazards that they have. So these electric vehicles with the lithium ion batteries that are in there pose a little different threat to the community, and we also have to address them slightly different. So lithium ion battery fires typically stem from thermal runaway inside the battery cells. So if those batteries get damaged, whether it's in a vehicle accident, whether a different part of the vehicle catches fire, or exposure to water, i.e. salt water, and that you see a lot on the coast, creates a thermal runaway in the battery. That thermal runaway, there's no stopping it once it starts. Exposes lithium and water don't match up very well, right? They have a very violent reaction with one another in high heat at that point in time. So when we look at a traditional car fire, we can probably most of the time put a car fire out anywhere from 300 to 500 gallons of water. An EV vehicle that has battery involvement in it can take 10 to 20 times the amount of water. So you're looking at 10,000 to 30,000 gallons of water, up to 4 hours of constant application of water on some of these vehicles. So we started looking in the industry wide on what we can do to help minimize that and minimize that impact here in our community. And these electric vehicle blankets are a product that's on the market that we currently have and have procured for our response. What they help do is they cover the vehicle, they smother it, they get rid of the oxygen. We continue to apply water to keep the vehicle and the blanket cool from the outside of it, but it really contains that fire and takes that reaction out, slows it down. So this really will enhance our opportunity with the progression of vehicle and electric vehicles throughout the community if there ever is a challenge with it, whether it's from a vehicle accident or a vehicle fire stemmed from another source, of really mitigating it. We have collaborated with the towing companies and wrecking companies on how we dispose and maneuver these vehicles after fires or after significant vehicle accidents in which battery involvement is. And these electric vehicle blankets are really playing a vital role for it. So we're pretty impressed and pretty proud that we're the first agency in here to get it. We have the other neighboring agencies have already been by to take a look at it as they're trying to go through procurement process to start obtaining them and putting them on their apparatus as well. But this is a great tool that we're really, really excited to be able to have out on the market to be helpful with it.
And commissioners, some of you operate electric vehicles. Chief Newbren also does, so I want you to feel comfortable that the fire chief is willing to drive an electric vehicle. We had a demonstration of these for all of our department directors within the last 30 days to see how they actually deploy this and apply it to a vehicle. It's pretty fascinating to watch. And the issue with these lithium ion batteries is it's not just to, the single electric vehicle, but as you recall I think MJ had come across an article recently that in California with the wildfires, one of the biggest issues that they're faced with in the post-fire mitigation efforts is what to do with all of these lithium ion batteries that were exposed to fire, that are now contaminated and very hazardous. And it is a tremendous expense for them to address that. It's one of those unknown things that you have, certainly along the coastal areas of Florida, the West Coast and the Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater area. When you had a significant storm surge from the 2 hurricanes that hit last year, they're dealing with a lot of the same problems. We hope that we never have that, but it's certainly reassuring to know that whether we have an accident that involves a EV out on the road, or if it happened within one of our charging stations or within the parking garage, that we have a tool that allows us to address that issue more efficiently, more quickly, and certainly much safer, not only for the people in that general area, but also for our firefighters.
Are these single-use blankets?
No, actually, that is the great thing about them. So after use, we do an inspection and evaluation on it to make sure the integrity is in there, left in it. The biggest challenge comes when holes get cut in it, not necessarily that they burn through, right? So the material doesn't burn. The material holds the heat very well. We keep it cool from the outside. It's really any kind of glass shards or anything that might penetrate through there that would render it unusable again. They have up to about a 5-year life cycle on them, and it could be extended even longer with evaluation and just look through.
How expensive are they?
They're about $2,000 a piece for the size that we purchased.
And they would be carried on what vehicle?
All of our fire engines are carrying them.
engines would
Yep,
have-
every single one of our fire engines are carrying them because they're the ones that will be going out and responding to any vehicle fires or motor vehicle accidents.
It looks like these would be good for any vehicle.
Well,
Why don't we do it for everybody? Because that's a great concept.
it is, but I do want to tell you that the gases that come off of lithium ion vehicle fires, you don't want to be around unless you're wearing a respirator on there. So the general public shouldn't be out there putting these over top of vehicles if they're on fire.
Have we had any EV fires to date that?
We have
to deal
not.
with?
I'm a safe driver.
I do have a sample of it over here. So after the meeting, if you guys want to touch it, feel it, I'll let you know it's 75 pounds, right? It's no easy load to pick it up, carry, and move. And the hardest part about our job with it really is putting it back in its case when we're done, right? That really is the hardest part about our job.
Folding a map.
Yeah, that's right. It's like camping, right? So if you're not good at camping and folding up a tent, this is going to be really tough to you.
Cast net.
Casting. That's how they apply it. They put piece in their mouth and throw it.
And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Damon so he can continue on with it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Drew. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Tim, city managers, and commissioners. I am Damon Irvis, Chief Operator at Fairfax Water Treatment Plant. I'm glad to be here with you all tonight. I'd like to begin by sharing a little detail about our water treatment system. We have a total of 9 water plants composed of 21 wells. Our plants stretch as far east of 544 Ridgeville Tech, Thompson Nursery Road, Winterset Gardens, Inwood, and Cypress Gardens Boulevard Winterset Water Plant. The system we use for overall monitoring is called SCADA. This system uses a radio to feed data back to us, allowing us to monitor 24/7. With SCADA, we can activate pumps based on demands to various parts of the system. For example, as we see increases in usage, we can adjust to ensure supply remains steady. The system automates much of this as well. SCADA system used in this way is in line with best management practices. On April 3rd, we experienced a disruption in the radio communication that connects the SCADA system. We can definitely say this was not a cyber attack. It was an atmospheric disruption of some sort. We have had this happen before. The previous occurrence was during daytime hours. Staff was able to reestablish the system quickly. This time it happened just after midnight, leading into the highest demand time for the system. Most irrigation, people up getting ready for work. Due to the interruption, the pumps were not activated to keep up with the peak demand of the early morning hours, leading to a drop in pressure in some areas of the system. I received a call right away and arrived at the plant at 1:30 a.m. We had the issue identified quickly, followed notes from previous occurrences, and dispatched the team to come in to all 9 plants to manually get everything running to meet the demand. Ultimately, the SCADA radio management system was reconnected. The precautionary boil water notice was issued because the water pressure dropped low in some areas of the system. When pressure drops below 20 psi, there's a risk of a reverse siphon effect that could introduce contaminants into the water system. We had no way of knowing for certain where that may have happened within this entire system across hundreds of miles of pipe. Out of abundance of caution, we felt it necessary to issue a system-wide precautionary boil water notice. To lift that, we must test the entire system. What you see on the screen is a map of the 90 sites throughout the system, displayed as blue dots. Samples were taken from each of those 90 sites on back-to-back days. All 180 samples passed the testing. This is the same sampling we do each and every week. We test 1/3 of the system every week. Results show that even with that interruption in the SCADA system, we had no degradation of our water whatsoever. Once we were able to mitigate the immediate concern, we began working with HIP and his team to identify our fiber footprint in proximity to all our water plants. The goal would be to tie our SCADA system in with both fiber and radio to create redundancy. We are working to prioritize those connections alongside the expansion of the dark fiber network.
So commissioners, one of the key things that I think is a takeaway in this, let's go back to the 90 sites that you see highlighted with the blue dots. As Damon said, when you have a boil water notice, even if there's a line that breaks, you identify those testing points that are within that area. We have to do 2 tests on that back to back. It takes 48 hours to do that. You can't just go do it in the morning today and then in the evening today. It's you clear one set of tests and then you do the second set. So they do that every single week. They take 1/3 of those sites. It rotates through, so we hit all of them, and they are pulling water samples every single week as part of just our ongoing water quality assurance process. On that particular day, when you have a system-wide boil water notice, you have to do all of them, which is a tremendous undertaking of manpower. There's not an AI way or some technological tool that can do this for you. You're going and pulling 90 samples. And certainly the fact that every one of those cleared, the first 90 cleared, the second 90 cleared, that's a testament to the quality of work that our water team does. The second point I just wanted to highlight and reemphasize, how do you prevent something from like that happening? Is we have more and more potential for atmospheric interference from communications of all sorts that we deal with. It's the redundancy in having both a radio system and what we call a bounded system or a fiber optic communication. So HIP and Damon and members of our team, as you mentioned, they look at all 9 of those water sites, identify how close are we with our existing dark fiber. What's it going to take to get the, we'll say the last mile, as we often refer to it, as well as the priority of that water treatment plant in pushing quality water out into the system. And then we will include some of those efforts within our fiscal year 26 budget to bring those online. We won't eliminate the radio system. You still need to have both. You need to have redundancy, because you don't want to have a situation where a contractor working on a private project accidentally severs a fiber optic line and then you have nothing. So you have to have more than one pathway. And that's certainly what is on the horizon for us. And I think that we're relatively close with that. But the intent here was to really just give you some insights into what goes into testing of water and how we ramp up those weekly efforts that we do just as part of routine to a much greater magnitude when you have an emergency situation.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question. So Damon, was this your first time talking to us?
Yes, sir.
Were you nervous?
Yes, sir.
You did a great job.
Thank
I
you.
see great things coming from you, so good job. We're not going to bite, see? So
Thank you, Commissioner Dancer.
my question has to do with atmospheric interference. Could that be like, I know you're convinced it was not a cyber attack, which is great, but can you elaborate a little bit more on what is atmospheric interference? Because that concerns me a little bit too. What does that mean?
So, because I believe we use, radio controlled telemetry system. So there was a radio interference or some type of interference with our telemetry system. Not sure where it came from.
I mean, could it be a sunspot, a moon? Could it be a EMP? I mean, it just seems to me like we need to be able to protect ourselves a little better against something like that, doesn't it?
I agree 100% with you. And like I said, the last time it happened, it was during the daytime, and we were able to get it back up and running a lot quicker. This happened in the middle of the night, so it was pretty challenging.
Commissioner Dancer, in speaking with Hipwin, our CIO, that could be interference from something else in the area that interferes with the frequency that we're on. We are looking to upgrade our entire SCADA system to a more robust telecommunication, radio frequency system. The system we have is an older system and needs to be enhanced, and that's one of the things that we're working towards doing now. That gives it some more, some more integrity on the safeguards there.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. I was just curious because whenever something comes in from the air, I always get concerned.
The question I have is, how does a reduction in pressure allows
I'll give
for the
you
possibility of contaminants?
I'll give you the layman's version, and then Damon can correct me with the technical version. So you have pressure on the system constantly. We operate about 70, 71 PSI under normal basis. If your pressure is low and someone is running irrigation, when that opens up and creates an air valve within there, an air break, the lack of pressure can actually create a reverse siphon back into the system. And if you had contaminants, say at an irrigation head, that would allow that to come back in. So when you look at external spigots on a house, they usually have an anti-siphon component to them nowadays, so that you can't have something come back into the system. And that's a safety precaution. And so much of our water system is that you don't want somebody to be able to put something back into the system to intentionally, as a bad actor, create a contaminant. But that's really what it comes down to, is where you would have an air brake within there that would allow something to come back in, just from a lack of pressure.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe I'll turn it over to Kevin.
I don't know that Kevin's presented to you yet either, so if you could go easy on him.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Damon, for the work you and your team do at the water plants. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I have exciting news to share with you guys tonight. The City of Winter Haven has acquired 3 SUFA boards for our local parks. One will be located at the Trailhead Park, one will be located at Reuben Williams Sports Complex, and one will be located at the walking trail at Chain of Lakes Parks. And as you can see in the pictures here, SUFA boards are basically standalone digital signs. And then on the back, on the right-hand side, you could see we could use them as kind of like little billboards. You can use static images on the back, which I also think is pretty cool. And then the best part is that they don't need electricity to run. The installation is quite simple. All it requires is 4 bolts into a concrete pad. And the screen is similar to a Kindle screen, kind of like a Kindle, the ebook readers. And so these boards, they allow us to send information digitally so we can instantly update any alerts, announcements, or messages remotely from our offices. And under strategic goal 6.3, under the responsible government pillar, it says to continue to involve the ways in which information about local government is communicated. So when HIB brought the idea of SUFA boards to our team, we viewed it as an additional possible communication tool. And then we realized it would provide a critical connection to those without access to phones, TVs, or computers while they're in our local parks. And then the best part is that we'll fill that gap in getting out information. So for example, emergency notifications, a precautionary boil water notice, a fire ban, or even important hurricane information. And then we can also utilize these boards for our calendars, social media feeds, polls, surveys, and even news articles. So as of right now, we're starting off with 3 SUFA boards, and they will be installed in the next 2 months or so. Thank you.
And where did you say? Where?
The locations?
Locations.
Yes, sir. So the local parks, it will be Trailhead Park,
Trailhead.
Reuben Williams Sports Complex,
Reuben Williams.
and the walking trail at Chain of Lakes Parks.
Okay.
How durable are these? I imagine a knucklehead or two out there will try to vandalize them. I mean, what's the risk of that potentially? Or
I would say they're pretty durable. They've been pretty successful in other cities. So I believe they can withhold any storms and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything to worry about there.
I think from a vandalism standpoint, you know, that's always the challenge, especially when you're at sports complexes. I just, you know, went 0 for 3 in the championship game, and I've got a bat in my hand. That's the kind of stuff we deal with constantly. So, or we're always ready to deal with, I should say. We knock on wood, we haven't had a whole lot of vandalism in that fashion, but having them in prominent places where they're visible, you know, that creates some safety within it. This will be our first venture with it. They are designed as such that if we needed to, as Kevin said, they don't have a power requirement for them. So this is something that we could actually relocate from time to time if we needed. If we were doing something significant, say in downtown, you know, a week-long festival or something like that, and you needed to utilize these, as long as you had the mounting space to do it, you could transport them and still be effective with it. I think once we get through the first 3 of them, we'll further assess where they would where we get enough foot traffic in other places to make them happen. You know, when you think about the field house, the new Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center, the library, places like that, we can already do a lot of display through some of the technology that's in those and the boards that we mount, such as what's right here in front of City Hall when you first walk in. This really captures the opportunity or capitalizes on the opportunity where we don't necessarily have that in some of the bigger park spaces.
is there any way to add a camera or communication device component to these, or is that going to be like the next level? I'm just thinking in the event of someone has an emergency, they run up to it, they tap the button and it connects them to dispatch or...
A couple of things in that regard. Something that we have come to understand a lot better is the mass availability that people have of cell phones. Even, I'm always surprised, even with our unhoused population, how many of them are charging a cell phone off of our power sources downtown. We have a number of emergency call boxes in locations along the trail, and then also like within the parking garage. A lot of the feedback that we've received from industry professionals is that those are much less effective nowadays with the high availability and frequency of people having cell phones. We are looking within our park system to deploy more camera systems, affixing them to some of the light fixtures that we have, where you have a power source, where you have the big belly trash containers and what we call the telebelly. That's the side attachment that serves as a Wi-Fi hotspot. HIP, I know, is exploring right now. There's an attachment that we can put to that will be basically a pole that has a camera mounted to it, and it utilizes the Wi-Fi and fiber optic systems that are connecting those for us to be able to monitor those parks through camera systems, same way we do so many of our facilities. As far as specific pieces that would go with a SUFA board, Katrina, do you have any insights on that?
I do. So these are solar powered. That's why we don't have to run any power to them. So the screen, that specific type of screen is used because it has a very low power need. So these aren't going to generate enough power to run other electronics or two-way communication things. They're just not set up for that because they're set up to be kind of nimble and movable. Speaking to the vandalism side, if one of these got spray painted or something like that, part of our contract is ongoing maintenance for any damages like that. They're wrapped in vinyl, so they can just come out and put a clean wrap right over it.
How expensive are
We got 3 for $60,000.
Say it again.
It was a one-time cost of $60,000 for 3, and it's an ongoing lease of $2,000 a year for the maintenance and any upgrades and things.
$5,300 a piece. 53, 33, 33.
How many do you anticipate that we would perhaps need?
I think as we look ahead, some other potential locations for this type of communication piece, MLK Park certainly has some good capacity for a lot of movement through there with the skate park next to it and the trail. That's probably the next site that I would look at. And then it's just assessing the other sites as we develop future park spaces. South Lake Howard Nature Park is another one. Certainly as we're expanding that, Lake Hartridge Nature Park. So we'll just kind of play them by ear.
With the studies that have been done, bang for your buck. I mean, what is this proven to enhance or what's kind of been the feedback in cities that it has been used or is being utilized currently?
Katrina?
We are somewhat early adopters, but I did speak to a couple cities that have them, and they get good engagement on the surveys and things that they put on them. So they had positive things to say about them. So we're interested to venture in and test more and figure out the best ways to engage with the community. That is a two-way communication, and that we can get feedback and surveys like on the facilities or on anything that we're trying to get surveys about. So we'll be tracking that. And then we know how much foot traffic goes by the boards as well. So then that helps us understand the activity in our parks.
Just for your information, our family donated the kiosk at the Chamber of Commerce building, and we could have bought 10 of these for what we paid for the one at the chamber. Now, granted, we were doing it in honor of my father, and that thing doesn't work half the time. So if this works and you can update this stuff, this is a really good bang for the buck. And for the price, I think we're really getting something nice here, I think. But the key is going to be keeping it updated and keeping it current. That's the problem with the chambers. It's never current.
So these will actually work off of feeds. So what we're already putting on social media and our website and things like that, and our calendar will just automatically go onto these unless we override it with an emergency message.
It's beautiful. That is. Great.
All right, thank you. Now Charlie Bird to wrap us up.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, I'm scared. I have to follow those three who did amazing for their first time. So bear with me, please. With that said, we're going to talk about some hurricane prep. When we went and we had our momentum session, we talked specifically about the radios and our loss of communication with cell phones. The new radios assets are starting to come in. I think that Brittany is putting all those together, getting them inventoried so that we can begin getting these things issued. One of the things that happens when you get new equipment in, you've got to do some training. So all of our employees that will be receiving these radios and utilizing these radios will be going through a training program that talks about the nomenclature of the radios. So these radios have different channels, and you got to flip them over to different areas to be able to get to those channels. And then there's a button on there that we don't want to push unless it's a really, really serious thing, because it'll get the dispatchers all wired up on us. And that's the emergency button. Don't push the red button if you ever get one in your hand. So we want to make sure that our folks know how to handle and work these radios, and then also radio etiquette and how they communicate on the radios and get more real-time information passed amongst themselves whenever whenever they have to be used during an emergency.
Charlie, can I add a piece to that, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may? Those radios will be utilized daily by our teams. Is a communication tool, a lot of times in lieu of using cell phones, which is a primary communication tool for us now. But part of the benefit of having those on an everyday situation is that we don't get to pick when emergencies happen. Certainly we know when hurricane's coming, it's death by, at the pace of a turtle. But when there's a hazmat incident, or there's an accident at an airport, or in one of our facilities, we have to be able to respond accordingly. So these have a 365 application for us.
How many radios?
I think we got 100 radios. Is that correct, Brittany?
Yes, we purchased 100 and they have all come in and are being assetted, and we're working on building out the channels at this time.
So those are used within, primarily within parks and recreation, the water department, and public works. Police and fire are already situated there. So this is just supplementing our communication there. Special events is critical for that
How
too.
busy are the channels? Because, like I said, using that technology
So
today.
the ones that we have, Charlie, as I understand it, our channels for our daily operations are assigned to us.
Yes. So when they program and put that template into those radios, it will be different from police and fire, but we can rotate to those same channels. So there's disaster channels that can be utilized. There are channels that are specific to Winter Haven that we can utilize. So as the city manager said, if there's a major event that takes place and we've got to communicate and cross-communicate with other jurisdictions or the county, we're able to designate a channel that we all have on that template and then go over it, and it does not overflow into the fire or the police, so that we have civilians on there while they're trying to deal with emergency calls. So there will be that ability. And correct me if I'm wrong, we can still scan with those. They'll scan through those channels. So your supervisors and all will be able to scan through. If they hear something that's going on where Parks and Rec is calling something in because something major has happened, Lake Silver, then we can roll that over. We designate a channel. The people that are going to be responding there that need to talk to each other will be able to do that. But in the meantime, your emergency, your public safety teams will be able to communicate with ambulances, crews, police officers, that kind of thing. And then there's a seamless transfer of information that takes place.
These are replacements for the current.
We don't have them. We don't have radios in those operations today. We have not had. Look, Commissioner Mercer, I'm trying to think. It would have probably been early 2000s when we as staff we kind of phased out the radio system because they became very antiquated, and very expensive to operate. They're still expensive tools. I mean, this is a communication tool that has a significant cost to it that we were able to account for in this year's budget. But right now, almost all the communication we have with our operations is through cell phone communication. And the problem with that is if I'm calling MJ to discuss an emergency situation, the only people that hear that communication are me and him. On the radio, everybody that's involved is hearing that transmission. So it becomes much more robust and inclusive and much more effective. We have some of the old outdated radios, the surplus from when the police department last upgraded that we used during Hurricane Milton, and it was a game changer. That is what prompted us to pursue the acquisition. We had brought that to the commission several months ago for the approval of the purchase. But once, as you all know, cell phone communications were obsolete during Hurricane Milton because of infrastructural failures in the cell tower systems outside of Polk County. And if we hadn't had the radios, it would have been disastrous for us.
Some of us didn't have radios. It was disastrous because you have no communications with staff in the field at all.
And as the city manager said, the efficiency of them being able to communicate and use those radios daily is going to make our efficiency for our customers much better and smoother. As we move forward, the training and administration with our administration and key personnel on what they need to be doing. We're going to go into some things in just on one of the next slides, but making sure that all of our people, all of our teammates are prepared. They have their checklist, their call down lists ready so that we're ready to roll out, and then ensuring that we have any training that needs to take place that needs to be updated or to bring so that it's fresh on people's memory again instead of waiting for something to happen. We will be coordinating with Polk County Emergency Operations Center. They pretty much drive the bus. We follow their lead. We communicate with them on a daily basis during events, as well as we get every day an update on what weather conditions there's to be expected, fire situations like with what's the KDBI numbers. We get those updates with them. We'll be continuing to communicate them throughout. They will also be assisting us with some of our training in the future as we go along. But the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, also known as the CEMP, you signed off on that in 2021. It needs to be updated, and we're working on the updating of that, but we work in coordination with Polk County EOC in that update. So what some of the hurricane preparations you usually hear say, we're prepping, we're getting ready, we're getting everything squared away. Just to kind of give you some, getting down into it a little bit further from a higher view, debris management. What's occurring right now is Brittany and her team are already in the process of getting, I think in a week, 2 weeks, the vehicle certified, identifying locations for that debris management and those sites to go. The radio system, again, that was just something that they can utilize on a daily basis whenever we have those radios. The vulnerable facilities, identifying what we need to do, where our weak points are, trying to identify something before it becomes a problem. If we have to, Fire Station 2, we're in the process of trying to harden that building. It's looking at the facilities that we have to maintain, making sure that those facilities are ready for something like this, a hurricane to occur. And then if something happens bad, like Punta Gorda or somewhere else, where the EOC or something that we're utilizing there that we need that's a critical facility, what is our redundancy for how we're going to set that up if we lose that resource? Generators and bypass pumps. You're going in, everyone that has generators going in and making sure that they're running. They should be doing a monthly test on those anyway, but this is another step in, make sure that they're running. The bypass pumps, make sure we have proper fueling, that we have a plan in place so that they can be fueled prior to. And and making sure that we're prepared. Call down logs are basically updating all of our employees' information, the people that we have to rely on that's going to come in and help us so that we can communicate to them very seamlessly and very easily when they need to, whenever they need to come to work, when they don't need to come to work, what the situation is, where we're at, updates. Communication is key all the way around, internally and externally. Well, I'll say that on the education campaign part of it. The critical contacts, those are where we're getting with all the hospitals, we get with the nursing homes. We try to make sure that we have contacts, who the person is that we need to contact, so that if there's any issues that come up, you recall there was a time that we had to help refill a generator tank that didn't have fuel in it for a hospital. And so if we didn't have those communications, those contact numbers, those abilities to talk to someone and work that out, then we'd be scrambling in the 11th hour, which is not where we want to be. The other part of that is we identified some of these nursing homes, elderly care facilities, what their plan is. Are they going to be evacuating? Who's going to be where? And I'll give you an example very quickly. There was one that was here in downtown that the walls blew off the sides of it. We were able to already know where the people were and who had evacuated out of those rooms, so that we didn't have to worry about trying to find who that person was if they were hunkered down with a family member or something. So it's making sure that we have all of those critical contacts and understand what theirs are and making sure that they're updated. Education campaign, we discussed about that as far as how do we get the word out. You know, what do the lists look like for all of our employees and their families? What do they need to be doing to prepare for a hurricane, so they don't have to worry about their family members? And do they have a plan? Do they have the redundancy plan if something happens? Where are they going to go? The other part of that education campaign is we talked about people that don't know that we're getting a bunch of new citizens that come into our city, and they may have dealt with snowstorms. They may have dealt with other situations, but they haven't dealt with a hurricane. They don't know they don't know who to contact. What are the resources that they need? So an education campaign so that we can educate them on how to prepare for hurricanes, how to get the information, how to get the supplies that they need, and how to get their houses ready. In other words, don't wait for the week before to start trimming all your trees when there's a hurricane rolling in. Let's make sure that you know that you need to be doing it ahead of season so that you're prepared already, and we're not burning resources trying to pick up those missiles before the hurricane hits, because that becomes a real problem. The other part of the education campaign that was really cool with the SUFA boards is that gets rolled out. That's real-time information. And not everybody has a cell phone. Not everybody utilizes a computer to get their information. Some people still like a hard-printed newspaper. How do we get the information to them that don't know how to use the technology that's out there right now? Because there's still a lot of people that are like that, to make sure that they have the education and the resources at their fingertips to provide it for them. So that's one of the things that Katrina and her team is working on. But those SUFA boards, that's kind of an exciting thing, because that's real time that gets pushed out. Not only are we putting it on our website and putting it on Facebook and other social media, but then it goes into these SUFA boards, and somebody's walking by and shoot, they might not even realize there's a storm coming. Who knows? So, and then, you know, the end result is we want to be prepared by the start of hurricane season. And that's where the training for the radios and the preparation and all the checklists that we're running down, that all of our department heads are working on within their areas. We want to make sure that we're prepared and that we have redundancies and that we're ready to go.
I will say on the hurricane preparedness, there's a tremendous amount of work that's going on behind the scenes right now, and we'll get into the, really pushing out what do citizens need to be doing here in the next couple weeks, making sure they're aware of tax-free holidays for hurricane supplies as that information comes available, what's to be included in your hurricane kit. I'm excited. We have 2 new exceptional public safety folks on our team in command positions this year with Chief Newbren and Chief Monroe, and seeing how that they have worked together since both have been on board has been just wonderful to observe and to see how that happens during a hurricane. I hope we never have to, but I feel extremely confident with their leadership in that role, and particularly with Charlie at the helm. So we will be ready to go, and hopefully we don't need any of it.
Hopefully.
So with that, thank you for your time and allowing us to share these things. Thank you for not beating up on Damon this evening.
All right.
A little disappointed you didn't take any shots at Charlie. Your next update, and it just fits so well as we're going into the summertime, which is the busiest time. Actually, I don't know that there is a busiest time for Parks and Recreation and Culture nowadays with everything that goes on, but certainly as we get into swim lessons, summer camps, lots of activities and festivities that happen within our parks between June, July, and August. We'll get some great updates on that, as well as some other things that pertain to how our community lives day to day.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
All right, then we'll have our commission reports and the attorney, city manager, deputy city manager, city clerk. Emergency matters not received for the agenda. A motion to adjourn. We adjourn.